first person in my immediate family to graduate from college, ran for Congress to serve upstate New York, and am proudly the youngest Republican woman elected to Congress in history. I am honored to support President Trump for re-election because I know that he is the only candidate who will stand up for hardworking families and protect the American dream for future generations. Since his first day in office, President Trump has fought tirelessly to deliver results for all Americans, despite the Democrats' baseless and illegal impeachment sham and the media's endless obsession with it. I was proud to lead the effort standing up for the Constitution, President Trump, and most importantly, the American people. This attack was not just on the president. It was an attack on you, your voice, and your vote. But the American people were not swayed by these partisan attacks. Our support for President Trump is stronger than ever before. We know what's at stake in this historic election. Americans from all walks of life are unified in support of our president. It's why more Republican women than ever are running for office this year. We understand that this election is a choice between the far-left Democratic socialist agenda versus protecting and preserving the American dream. President Trump is working to safely reopen our Main Street economy. He understands that the engine of our country is fueled by the ingenuity and determination of American workers, entrepreneurs, and small businesses. Joe Biden wants to keep them locked up in the basement and crush them with $4 trillion in new taxes. We face a critical choice. Joe Biden's far-left failed policies of the past 47 years, or President Trump, who will stand up for the American people and the Constitution. I believe in the wisdom and spirit of the American people to elect the only candidate who is capable of protecting the American dream, President Donald J. Trump. Thank you to the North Country for the opportunity to serve as your voice supporting his re-election. God bless the United States of America, the greatest country on earth.
Good evening. I'm Madison Cawthorn, and I'm running to represent North Carolina's 11th Congressional District. This is a time of great adversity for our country. And I know something about adversity. At 18 years old, I was in a horrific car accident that's left me paralyzed from the waist down. Instantly, my hopes and dreams were seemingly destroyed. I was given a 1% chance of surviving. But thanks to the power of prayer, a very loving community, and many skilled doctors, I made it. It took me over a year to recover. My first public outing in a wheelchair was to a professional baseball game. You know, before my accident, I was 6'3". I stood out in a crowd. But as I wheeled through the stadium, I felt invisible. At 20, I thought about giving up. However, I knew I could still make a difference. You know, my accident has given me new eyes to see and new ears to hear. God protected my mind and my ability to speak. So I say to people who feel forgotten, ignored, and invisible, I see you. I hear you. At 20, I made a choice. In 2020, our country has a choice. We can give up on the American idea, or we can work together to make our imperfect union more perfect. I choose to fight for the future, to seize the high ground and retake the shining city on a hill. While the radical left wants to dismantle, defund, and destroy, Republicans, under President Trump's leadership, want to rebuild, restore, and renew. I just turned 25. When I'm elected this November, I'll be the youngest member of Congress in over 200 years. And if you don't think young people can change the world, then you just don't know American history. George Washington was 21 when he received his first military commission. Abe Lincoln, 22 when he first ran for office. And my personal favorite, James Madison, was just 25 years old when he signed the Declaration of Independence. In times of peril, young people have stepped up and saved this country, abroad and at home. We held the line, scaled the cliffs, crossed oceans, liberated camps, and cracked codes. Yet today, political forces want to usher in the digital dark ages, a time of information without wisdom and tribalism without truth. National leaders on the left have normalized emotion-based voting and a radicalized identity politics that rejects Martin Luther King's dream. MLK's dream is our dream, for all Americans to be judged solely on their character. Millions of people risk their lives every year to come here because they believe in the dream of MLK and the American dream. Join us as we, the Party of Freedom, double down on ensuring the American dream for all people. We are committed to building a new town square. It welcomes all ideas and all people. Here we will have freedom of speech, not freedom from speech. To liberals, I say let's have a conversation. Be a true liberal. Listen to other ideas and let the best ones prevail. And to conservatives, I say let's define what we support and win the argument in areas like healthcare and on the environment. In this new town square, you don't have to apologize for your beliefs or cower to a mob. You can kneel before God, but stand for our flag. The American idea my ancestors fought for during the Revolutionary War is just as exciting and revolutionary today as it was 250 years ago. I say to Americans who love our country, young and old, be a radical for freedom. Be a radical for liberty. And be a radical for our republic, for which I stand, one nation under God, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and may God bless America.
I'm Jack Brewer, a former three-time NFL team captain, college professor, coach, husband, son, and father. I'm also a lifelong Democrat, but I support Donald Trump. Let me be clear, I didn't come here for the popularity or the praise, the likes or the retweets. I'm here as a servant to God, a servant to the people of our nation, and a servant to our president. I grew up in Grapevine, Texas, a town that my great-grandfather was the first black man to settle as a sharecropper in 1896. My early high school experience included fighting with skinheads and being a witness in an attempted murder trial after my friend shot a skinhead in self-defense. I remember my dad's bravery when he personally stood up against a KKK rally in my town. In my house, my father taught me to back down from no one. I know what racism looks like. I've seen it firsthand. In America, it has no resemblance to President Trump. And I'm fed up with the way he's portrayed in the media, who refuse to acknowledge what he's actually done for the black community. It's confusing the minds of our innocent children. Before I left to come deliver this message, my energetic 8-year-old son, Jackson, stopped me and said, "Dad, can you please just tell everyone that all lives need to matter and that God loves everyone?" In that moment, I realized that my 8-year-old had figured out what so many adults have seemed to forget. We are not as divided as our politics suggest. At some point, for the sake of our children, the policies must take priority over the personalities. So because you have an issue with President Trump's tone, you're going to allow Biden and Harris to deny our underserved black and brown children school choice? Are we so offended by the president's campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," that we're going to ignore that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have collectively been responsible for locking up countless black men for nonviolent crimes? Are you going to allow the media to lie to you by falsely claiming that he said there were very fine white supremacists in Charlottesville? He didn't say that. It's a lie. And ignore the so-called Black Lives Matter organization that openly, on their website, calls for the destruction of the nuclear family. My fellow Americans, our families need each other. We need black fathers in the homes with their wives and children. The future of our communities depend on it. I'm blessed to be able to run inner city youth programs and to also teach in prisons across America. The inmates in my federal prison program literally receive days off their sentence just for attending my class. And that's thanks to President Donald Trump and his First Step Act. President Trump cared about these Americans and their families, even when so many others had left them behind and had written them off. I'm forever grateful for President Trump for that. He endures relentless attacks, and so do many of us, like myself, who support him. But my mama always told me, when the Lord starts blessing, the devil starts messing. This convention marks a time to celebrate our history. Republicans are the party that freed the slaves and the party that put the first black men and women in Congress. It's the party of Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. And now, Tim Scott and Donald Trump. Our president has made incredible strides to end mass incarceration and give unprecedented opportunities for black in America to rise. America, let this election be a call for all God's people who are called by his name to humble ourselves and pray together and to seek his face and to turn from our wicked ways. Then he will hear us from heaven, and he will forgive our sins, and he will heal our land. Amen, and God bless America.
Greetings. My name is Chen Guangcheng. Standing up to tyranny is not easy, I know. When I spoke out against China's one-child policy and other injustices, I was prosecuted, beaten, sent to prison, and put under house arrest by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. In April 2012, I escaped and was given shelter in the American embassy in Beijing. I'm forever grateful to the American people for welcoming me and my family to the United States, where we are now free. The CCP is an enemy of humanity. It is terrorizing its own people, and it is threatening the well-being of the world. In China, expressing beliefs or ideas not approved by the CCP, religion, democracy, human rights can lead to prison. The nation lives under mass surveillance and censorship. The U.S. must use its values of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law to gather a coalition of other democracies to stop CCP's aggression. President Trump had led on this, and we need the other countries to join him in this fight, a fight for our future. Standing up to fight unfairness isn't easy, I know. So does President Trump. But he has shown the courage to wage that fight. We need to support, vote, and fight for President Trump for the sake of the world. Thank you.
I'm Congressman Lee Zeldin. Tonight, as we celebrate America as a land of heroes. I'm here at a VFW Post of Heroes in West Hampton Beach, New York. I've seen amazing Americans in action. Raised in a law enforcement family, deployed to Iraq as an 82nd Airborne paratrooper, and serving today in the Army Reserve. My generation of post-9/11 veterans has huge shoes to fill. Following our greatest generation that fought tyranny and saved the world. All over our country, everyday heroes serve and sacrifice for the greater good. Farmers, truckers, craftsmen, these heroes keep America running, and President Trump fights for them every day. This year, we've especially relied on one particular group of heroes, frontline medical workers. My twin daughters, Michaela and Ariana, were born over 14 weeks early. They weighed just 1.5 pounds. At 2 weeks, Michaela went into septic shock, had a stroke, and underwent brain surgery, leaving 1/3 of the left side of her brain a hole. Her doctors didn't believe Michaela would survive, fearing dire permanent consequences even if she did. Through the miracles of modern medicine, power of prayer, and her will to live, my daughters are now starting high school and doing great, with no long-term effects from those frightful months in the NICU. So when I learned my county's PPE stockpile was depleted, I immediately thought of those healthcare workers who saved my baby girls. Jared Kushner and I were on the phone late into that Saturday night. The very next day, President Trump announced he was sending us 200,000 N95 masks. He actually delivered almost 400,000. That number quickly grew to 1.2 million masks, gowns, and more. The president sent thousands of ventilators to New York. He deployed the USS Comfort and converted the Javits Center to a field hospital. His administration authorized our lab testing requests at blinding speed. During a once-in-a-century pandemic, an unforeseeable crisis sent to us from a faraway land, the president's effort for New York was phenomenal. For our nation to emerge even stronger, more prosperous, freer, and more secure than ever. To make our country greater than ever before, we must re-elect President Trump. We are the land of the free because of the brave. And we are the land of opportunity because we have a president who wants to empower the best of who we are to be the best of what we can be. There's never been a nation greater than ours.
To the
Never
Troll
a people
Patrol.
more resilient than ours.
Live.
And never a future for America more promising
There we
than
go.
ours right now.
Representative
Keeping
Lee
America
Zeldin
great
on the screen.
is up to us. And losing?
I've been
is not
asked,
an
is
option.
this basically a Republicans are stupid and evil stream?
And I'm very proud to have President Trump in office
Right-wingers
here,
are
'cause
morons.
He's the best we've ever had.
It's 9-3.
He's done the most for any president
Or
ever
RNC
done.
coverage.
He's always there trying to take care of veterans, giving veterans what they need. And the turnaround times have increased since Trump has taken over.
You're welcome to call in. Tell me I'm stupid. 917-830-4359. You can chat with me on whatever platform you're watching on. Let me know your thoughts.
Prosthetic leg fixed, and now it's a lot better turnaround. But before it was a 5-year waiting process to appeal. So
We're coming up on the top of the hour. That's when the networks are going to pick up their coverage.
Approved for medical, and then turned right around and got disability. I was thinking it was going to be
This is a stream that's going to be giving you
He's accomplished a lot in 3.5 years. And
political analysis
for veterans, for the middle class.
along with mocking these complete and total morons
especially for this
that currently occupy the Republican Party.
wall if he asked you to.
Went through many presidents.
Tonight we're going to have Mike Pence is the main event.
Ever have and never will have, I believe.
I believe he's speaking from the Rose Garden, as was Melania last night.
Hello, everyone, and thank you
Trump
for
is putting
inviting me
veterans
into your
first.
home this evening.
Of course, he's doing nothing about bounties on currently serving troops' heads.
Here in Iowa, where I learned the importance of faith, hard work, and service.
Stupid ass Joni Ernst. They're not even letting her on the main show. This is before we go to the networks.
As a local official, a battalion commander in the military, and as a U.S. Senator. Service. It's more than a word to me. It's a mission, a way of life. It's what brought me to Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 2008 when I was in the National Guard. We saw historic floods that swept through the communities. We lent a helping hand to our fellow Iowans who were literally underwater. We thought we had seen the worst, but 12 years later, these same communities have faced an even more devastating disaster.
I am going to flip over and see what we've got going on in terms of trolling people on Facebook on live streams. I don't know how. I'm on new Facebook now. I'm not exactly sure how to get the newest stories first.
Houses, farms were destroyed. About 1/3 of our crops here were damaged. In some cases, these storms wiped out a lifetime of work. And yet Iowa farmers didn't hesitate.
I hate it when they pull on the heartstrings because I feel bad about making jokes about them.
Farmers live every day with that sense of service. The stewards of the land, the ones who feed and fuel the world. President Trump quickly signed an emergency declaration for Iowa.
Of course, this is a smoke 'em if you've got 'em event.
President Trump came to
Feel free to get high with
the
me.
national media finally did too. For years, I've worked closely with the president for farmers in Iowa and across the country. We scrapped Obama and
You
Biden's
look like the type of
punishing
woman
waters
the
of
president
United
would like to get
States
close
rule,
to.
which would have regulated about 97% of land in Iowa. In some cases, even puddles. It would have been a nightmare for farmers.
I would
The
bet
president
she was
delivered on
scared of
major
being
trade
grabbed by
deals
the
with
pussy
Japan and
if
the
she was
United
close to
States
Trump.
Mexico-Canada agreement. And he implemented the sale of E15 fuel year-round. That means more choices for you at the pump and more jobs for farmers in the heartland. This is something the Obama-Biden administration failed to do in 8 years. In fact, I can't recall an administration more hostile to farmers than Obama-Biden, unless you count the Biden-Harris ticket. The Democratic Party of Joe Biden is pushing this
That's a weird
so-called
claim
Green
to
New
make.
Deal. If given power, they would essentially ban animal agriculture and eliminate gas-powered cars. It would destroy the agriculture industry, not just here in Iowa,
wish.
but throughout the country.
When I talk
When
about
the
animal
pandemic
agriculture,
hit, President Trump heard us in
I'm
our
definitely
call
meaning
for
factory
assistance for our
farming.
farmers. Knowing we have an ally in the White House is important. Folks, this election is a choice between two very different paths: freedom, prosperity, and economic growth.
she is one of the more reputable people that they have to trot out to speak. But yet they're having her speak before they even go on to the main show. And they're only giving her, what, 5 or 6 minutes. This is insane. I don't think that's a smart move.
And it's a clear one. Thank you, and God bless.
Now, this is where the
Ladies and
networks are
gentlemen,
picking up
I'm
coverage.
Burgess Owens. Shackled in the belly of a slave ship, an 8-year-old boy named Silas Burgess came to America to be sold on an auction block. By the grace of God and the courage of slaves who believed in freedom, Silas escaped through the Underground Railroad and settled in the great state of
This
Texas.
is the Heroes
He went on to
Night.
become a successful entrepreneur.
This is
He
how
built
they're
his
building
community's
it.
first church, first elementary school, and purchased 102 acres of farmland, which he paid off in 2 years. I'm here today, a candidate for Congress, because of my great-great-grandfather, Silas Burgess. I was raised in the South during the days of Jim Crow and the KKK. Even through the challenges of segregation, we were taught that anything is possible in America. When I was 22 years old, I thought all my dreams had come true.
Now, before we went on the air, there was the
10 years later,
congressional candidate that was in a wheelchair And he had the really cool moment at the end of the speech where he's like, I stand for freedom, or whatever the fuck he said. Mad props, because if I was a political consultant and I was giving them advice, I'd be like, yeah, you do that shit. I saw it coming when I saw the other two guys walk out.
And a security guard at night. It was humbling to be recognized cleaning a chimney by someone who once cheered me as an NFL fan. But those hard days would pay off, and eventually I started a rewarding career in the corporate world. We live in a country where we're encouraged to dream big.
They had another sporty ball guy before we came on with the stream.
We don't hear that same message from Nancy Pelosi's Congress. Career politicians, elitists, and even a former bartender want us to believe it's impossible. They want us to believe that what I did, what my great-great-grandfather did, is impossible for ordinary Americans. As patriots, we know better. This November, we stand at a crossroad. Mobs torch our cities while popular members of Congress promotes the same socialism that my father fought against in World War II. We have a Democratic candidate for president who says that I'm not black if I don't vote for him. Now more than ever, we need leaders who stand by their principles.
I mean, the criticism's not wrong.
For political opportunities.
Fucking Joe
Now,
Biden.
More than ever, we need leaders who will stand up to the lawlessness supported by the radical left.
You won't see me defend him.
This November, we have an opportunity.
I will
to
tell you,
reject
you
the
probably
mob
want him for
mentality
your president.
And once again, be the America that my
Don't
great-great-grandfather
shoot me,
believed
I'm
in.
just the messenger.
During the Trump administration, business ownership among blacks, Hispanics, and females have reached all-time highs. Those same groups enjoyed record low
They're all-time lows right now. All-time lows.
And we're just getting started. I'm running for Congress because we don't need more career politicians. We need a few more chimney sweeps. We need more leaders like President Trump who understand the freedoms that make up the fabric of America. My fellow Americans, specifically my Democrat and
We need more
independent
dumbasses,
friends,
is what he's
it is
saying.
now time for us to unite and put aside partisan barriers. Help us win back the House, keep the Senate, and give our president 4 more years. And I promise you,
that ain't
we will
happening.
make you proud. Thank you, and God bless the United States of America.
Standing guard over Baltimore Harbor is the remains of an earthen star.
You see, this is their
a
opening
relic
piece.
of time past.
They tried to squeeze him
It recalls
in,
a
but he
time
was
when
totally over the top of the
liberty
hour.
stirred in men of renown who stood in the gap against the most powerful force in the world. 27 hours, 1,000 men, low on ammunition, firing scrap metal. The battle raged, insurmountable odds. A darkness
This
fell upon
piece
this
right
new
here is
nation.
going to be studied in
In the midst
history.
of the fight, the heroes of Fort McHenry were unmoved.
But the propaganda that the
The light
fascists
of dawn
used
overcame the darkness.
leading up to the
gallant
war of
flag hoisted
2020.
above Fort McHenry, torn and battered, stood, victoriously observing a dejected enemy slowly retreating into the rising sun, inspiring the anthem of our nation. The spirit of liberty, not to be denied, the earthen star, Fort McHenry. A reminder of
Where are the
those
QAnon
brave
thugs
patriots
being like,
who,
that's
having
a
done all,
satanic
stood and
symbol?
prevailed. It is why we stand today, honoring past, present, and future generations of freedom-loving
Didn't they flip out
Americans
about there being like a
when we
pentagon
heed
in
the
the
anthem and
a
raise
pentagram?
the
Not a
Star-Spangled Banner.
Pentabong ribs.
Good evening, America. I'm Laura Trump.
What up,
Daughter
Laura?
of Bob and Linda Unaska, sister to
Who?
Kyle, mother to Luke and Carolina, and the daughter-in-law of our 45th president, Donald J. Trump. But tonight, I come to you simply as an
This
American.
is Eric's wife?
My life began like many in our country. I grew up in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina. My parents were small business owners and worked hard to make sure that my brother and I had everything we needed, but not everything we wanted. My parents raised me to believe that in America, I could achieve anything with hard work and determination.
Don't forget, you
That the
can call
opportunities
in
available to me were limited only by the size of
917-830-4359.
my ambition. That
Tell me
I
I'm
should dream
stupid.
big,
Argue
and I
with
did.
me about anything.
Those very dreams
Give
are
me your
what led me
comments
to
on the
New York
RNC.
City. I'd heard the adage, if I can make it there, I can make it anywhere, and I intended to do just that. Never in a million years did I think that I would be on this stage tonight, and I certainly never thought that I'd end up with the last name Trump. My 7th grade English teacher, Mrs. B, used to tell us, believe none of what you hear, half of what you read, and only what you're there to witness firsthand. The meaning of those words never fully weighed on me until I met my husband and the Trump family. Any preconceived notion I had of this family disappeared immediately. They were warm and caring. They were hard workers, and they were down to earth. They reminded me of my own family. They made me feel like I was home. Walking the halls of the Trump Organization, I saw the same family environment. I also saw the countless women executives who thrived there year after year. Gender didn't matter. What mattered was the ability to get the job done. I learned this directly when, in 2016, my father-in-law asked me to help him win my cherished home state and my daughter's namesake, North Carolina. Though I had no political experience, he believed in me. He knew I was capable, even if I didn't. So it didn't surprise me when President Donald Trump appointed so many women to senior-level positions in his administration. Secretary of the United Nations, Secretary of the Air Force, the first female CIA director, the first black female director of the Fish and Wildlife Service.
Ooh,
and
North
countless
Carolina is
ambassadors, just to name a
incredibly
few.
close.
Under President Trump's leadership, women's unemployment hit the lowest level since World War II.
Two polls have Biden up by
4.3
one.
million new
One poll
jobs have
has
been
Trump
created
up
for
by
women.
2.
In
Another one
2019
it's a
alone,
tie.
women took over 70% of all new jobs. Female small business ownership remains at an all-time high, and 600,000 women have been lifted out of poverty, all since President Trump took office.
Razor thin.
He didn't do these things to gain a vote or check a box. He did them because they're the right things to do. 100 years ago today, the 19th Amendment was ratified, granting the right to vote to every American woman. And since that day, incredible strides have been made by women in America. From Amelia Earhart to Rosa Parks and Sally Ride, women shaped our history and are part of what has made our country the most exceptional nation in the world. I often think back to my 24-year-old self, driving alone in my car from North Carolina to New York City.
I
And
often
think about
do
what
as
I
well.
tell myself now as we head towards the most critical election in modern history. This is not just a choice between Republican and Democrat, or left and right. This is an election that will decide if we keep America America, or if we head down an uncharted, frightening path towards socialism. Abraham Lincoln once famously said, "America will never be destroyed from the outside. If we falter and lose our freedoms, it will be because we destroyed ourselves."
By
While those
electing
words
dumb
were spoken
fucks
over
like Trump.
150 years ago, never have they been more relevant. Will we choose the right path and maintain the unique freedoms and boundless opportunities that make this country the greatest in the history of the world? Will we remain the beacon of hope for
By
those
what
around the world
metric
fighting
are we the
oppression,
greatest country?
communism and tyranny? The choice is ours.
I dare
I
anyone
know
to
the
tell
promise
me
of
what
America
metric that is.
because I've lived it.
917-830-4359.
But as a woman who
Someone
knows
called
what it's
in
like
and tried to
not
do
get
it the other
blue-collar jobs,
night. They
to serve
couldn't.
customers for tips and to aspire to rise. When I look at my son Luke and my daughter Carolina, I wonder, what sort of country will I be leaving for them, for our future generations? In recent months, we've seen weak, spineless politicians cede control of our great American cities to violent mobs. Defund the police is the rallying cry for the new radical Democrat Party. Joe Biden will not do what it takes to maintain order, to keep our children
Because
safe
Joe
in our
Biden is
neighborhoods
so
and in their
radical.
schools, to restore our American way of life. We cannot dare to dream our biggest dreams for ourselves or for our children while consumed by worry about the safety of our families. President Trump is the law and order president, from our borders to our backyards.
Oh my God!
President Trump will keep America safe. President Trump.
Joni Ernst, who was a senator for how fucking long? She didn't even get the slot when they first go on, she was on before the networks picked up coverage.
I wasn't born in Trump. I'm from the South. I was raised a Carolina girl. I went to public schools and worked my way through a state university.
Oh, she's only been a senator since 2015.
What I learned about our president is different than what
For some reason, I felt like she had been around a lot longer. She was in the Iowa State Senate
then no one on earth works harder
before that.
people. That he's willing to fight for his beliefs and for the people and the country that he loves. He is a person of conviction. He is a fighter and will never
Are we still talking about Trump?
He will uphold our values. He will preserve our families. And he will build upon the great American edict that our union will never be perfect until opportunity is equal for all, including and especially for women. Our 40th president, Ronald Reagan, said it best. The
Ronald
dreams of
Reagan
people
was a
may
piece of
differ,
shit.
But everybody wants their dreams
I can
to come
trace
true.
back everything
America
wrong with this
above all
country
places
back to the
gives us
election of
freedom
Ronald
to do
Reagan.
that. It's up to us to keep this country a place where no dream is out of reach for our children and generations beyond. To my father-in-law, thank you for believing in me. Thank you for bravely leading this country, and thank you for continuing to fight every day for America. May God bless and protect the Gulf states in the path of the hurricane. May God bless our troops, and
Oh,
may
yeah,
God
the
continue
hurricane.
to bless this incredible country.
Shit.
Good evening. My name is Sam Vigil. There is a hole in my heart since my beloved Jackie was taken from me. This is her story. There were two things that Jackie loved to do every day. One was to go to the gym and tweet out Bible verses and prayers to her friends.
See, I hate this. I would love to be able to make fun of him talking about tweeting out Bible verses and prayers. Because fuck Bible verses and prayers. But no, you got to give me a sad story that like I'd feel like a jerkwad if I make fun of it.
I went outside to see if she had forgotten something. What I saw was a Jeep blocking her car in the driveway. I noticed the bullet hole in Jackie's window. I saw someone jumping into the Jeep and speeding away. Jackie had just been shot and killed in cold blood. We think this was a carjacking gone wrong, very wrong. Every time I open the garage door or stand in the driveway, I hear that horn. I see her slumped in the seat.
I don't understand the purpose of having this guy out here.
That's my life sentence. It's a sentence being served by too many families left behind by senseless killings. Albuquerque, where I live, is one of the most violent cities in the country. Fewer than 50% of homicides are solved. It is a sad irony that Jackie immigrated to the U.S.
Well, I think that's an indictment of the police, isn't it? ACAB, motherfucker.
Driveway. For 8 months, there were no arrests, no leads in connection with Jackie's murder.
Because cops are
The
useless.
Albuquerque police were overwhelmed. They needed help. Help arrived when President Trump launched Operation Legend in July of this year. Almost immediately, the FBI took over Jackie's case. In a matter of days, they arrested 4 people. The 5th suspect killer was arrested in Texas on unrelated charges. He is an illegal immigrant with a long criminal record. He had been deported in September and had come back in October to terrorize our community. I am extremely grateful to President Trump and the FBI for their efforts to deliver justice for Jackie and all the other innocent victims of violent crime. I am honored to support the president because he is supporting us. I know he will never stop fighting for justice, for law and order, for peace, security in our communities.
Wow, they kind of cut him off abruptly. Oh shit, what we got going on here?
I am Clarence Henderson, There have been movements that have changed the course of history. Among the most extraordinary was the Civil Rights Movement. 60 years ago, segregation was legal and enforced. The simple act of sitting at a lunch counter could lead to physical harm, jail time, or worse. I know from personal experience. Walking into Woolworth department store on February 2nd, 1960, I knew...
I may very well fall asleep during our coverage tonight. Doing this has taken a toll on me. The RNC is just like, it's draining. It hasn't been fun. I was told it would be, and I was asked to do this. I didn't want to do it.
By sitting down to order a cup of coffee, we challenged injustice. We knew it was necessary.
Even my cats are restless.
But we didn't know what would happen. We faced down the KKK. We were cursed at and called all kinds of names. They threatened to kill us, and some of us were arrested. But it was worth it. Our actions inspired similar protests throughout the South against racial injustice. And in the end, segregation was abolished, and our country moved a step closer to true equality for all. That's what actual peaceful protests can accomplish. America isn't perfect.
Those protests wouldn't have accomplished anything without the threat of violence from the more radical
it's not where
movements.
You come from, it's where you're going. I was born on what some would call the wrong side of the tracks. I don't even have a birth certificate. I never attended an integrated school, and am the only one out of my immediate family who graduated from college, an HBCU. I'm a military veteran and a civil rights activist. And you know what else? I'm a Republican, and I support Donald Trump. If that sounds strange, you don't know your history. It was the Republican Party that passed the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery. It was the Republican Party that passed the 14th Amendment, giving black men citizenship. It was the Republican Party that passed the 15th Amendment, giving black men the right to vote. Freedom of thought is a powerful thing. There are Americans, voters all over the country, who media is trying to convince to conform to the same old Democratic talking points. You know what that'll get you? The same old results. Joe Biden had the audacity to say, if you don't vote for him, you ain't black. Well, to that, I say, if you do vote for Biden,
they're really going to drive that point home.
Donald Trump is not a politician. He's a leader. Politicians are
because if they can peel off 2 or 3 percentage points of the black vote.
The record funding Trump gave HBCUs is priceless too. So are the record number of jobs he created for the black community, and the investment he drove into our neighborhoods with tax incentives in opportunity zones. And so are the lives he restored by passing criminal justice reform, where 91% of the inmates released are black. These achievements demonstrate that Donald Trump truly cares about black lives. His
it's so boring.
His heart. He has done more for black Americans in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in 50. Donald Trump is offering real and lasting change, an unprecedented opportunity to rise. A country.
I mean, more of the criticism Biden. Trump hasn't done shit.
60s. A place where people are judged by the content of their character, their talents and abilities, not by the color of their skin. This is the America I was fighting for 60 years ago. This is the America Donald Trump is fighting for today. Let's all join in this fight for real.
I don't even know what kind of America Donald Trump is fighting for. It's one where he doesn't get prosecuted.
During the presidential primary debates 4 years ago, one outsider stood alone and said in public what most Americans thought in private. It was 14 years after the start of the war in Afghanistan and 12 years after the invasion of Iraq, where thousands of American troops had died and trillions in taxpayer dollars had been spent.
This guy has skinned another human being. Absolute, no question about it. Look at those eyes, those little beady eyes. Do you trust him? That's the face several people have seen right before they died.
What they were, a disaster. The media was shocked because Donald Trump was running as a Republican. And yet he said out loud what we all knew, that American foreign policy was failing to make Americans safer. After the end of the Cold War, Democrats and Republicans in Washington bought into the illusion that the whole world would start to resemble America. And so they started to pursue unlimited globalization. They welcomed China into the World Trade Organization. They engaged in nation building in Afghanistan and tried to export democracy to Iraq. They signed a nuclear deal with Iran
that was fucked up, yes.
and a global climate agreement in Paris.
Weren't you in the Bush administration?
But they didn't ground any of it in the interests of the average American. So for decades, while Washington politicians built a global system, American wages stagnated. Our great cities and industries were hollowed out. Entire communities were devastated. And our manufacturing plants were shipped off to China.
This guy still opposes gay marriage.
When Washington stopped being the capital of the United States and started being the capital of the world. As U.S. ambassador to Germany, I had a front row seat to Donald Trump's America First foreign policy. I wish every American could see how President Trump negotiates on their behalf. I've watched President Trump charm the Chancellor of Germany while insisting that Germany pay its NATO obligations. I was proud to witness President
Trump. He
was
a spokesperson to the United Nations under
you for wanting
Bush.
America to pay for your security. I actually respect you for out-negotiating the presidents before me. But it stops with me. I won't let the American taxpayer be taken advantage of. Donald Trump's administration has always made clear that our priority is the American people's security. That's the job of all leaders, to put their people first. And we've seen how this strategy
Trump
has
only
succeeded.
puts himself first.
In 4 short years, Donald Trump has led even some Washington Democrats to agree on the Chinese
ran us
threat,
into the ground.
on trade deals that benefit America first, on alliances that share responsibility.
Is sitting on top of record deficits, record unemployment,
troops home. He
getting ready to be record
evictions
evictions all in one way.
Make Americans safer. The Washington elites want you to think this kind of foreign policy is immoral, and so they call it nationalist. That tells you all you need to know. The DC crowd thinks when they call Donald Trump a nationalist, they're insulting him. As if the American president isn't supposed to base foreign policy on America's national interests. A return to the Biden way of thinking means America gives the radical terrorist regime in Tehran a plane load of cash in the middle of the night. Well, you see,
did they literally give them cash on a plane? It was their money.
But that
it was just frozen assets.
An airstrike to take out the head of Iran's terror machine.
I don't know if the plane, they've said that multiple times throughout the convention.
But we also must be clear that when those who seek freedom take tremendous personal risk in places like Hong Kong, Tehran, or Minsk, there is no doubt who President Trump's administration supports. We will always stand with the people who fight for their God-given freedoms.
He loves dictators. He sucks their dicks.
Don't be fooled. The Washington establishment
Duterte,
is trying to sell you on their
Kim Jong-un. Oh, Kim
Joe Biden
Jong-il.
was first elected to the Senate in 1972.
No, Kim Jong-un. I was right the first time. Kim
Well,
Jong-un.
it's actually the typical Washington story. Just this year, 22 Democrats ran for president. They rejected all of the outsiders and nominated the ultimate Washington insider, someone they had to pull out of retirement. Every time Joe Biden offers
It's
a new
true.
idea, you should ask yourself, why didn't he try that over the last 48 years? Today, the Democrats blame a global pandemic that started in China on President Trump. And they still blame Russia for Hillary Clinton's loss in 2016.
They do kind of do
As
that.
acting director of national intelligence, I saw the Democrats' entire case for Russian collusion. And what I saw made me sick to my stomach. The Obama-Biden administration
I know,
secretly
the Senate
launched
intelligence
a surveillance
report
operation on the Trump campaign.
Showed how
and
corrupt
silenced the
Donald
many
Trump
brave
is.
intelligence officials who spoke up against it. They presented bogus information as facts. They lied to judges. Then they classified anything that undermined their case. And after Donald Trump
That really
won
sounds
the
like he's talking
election,
about Trump.
when they should have continued the American tradition of helping the president-elect transition into the White House, they tried instead to undercut him even more. Former Vice President Joe Biden asked intelligence officials
It's funny that he should
to
say that because
uncover the
that's,
hidden
that's
information
a worry
on
of
President
people that
Trump's incoming
if Trump
national security
loses,
advisor
which is
3
looking
weeks
highly
before
likely,
the inauguration.
that he is not going to help
The
Biden
Democrats,
transition.
between surveillance, classifications, leaks, and puppet candidates, they never want the American people to know who's actually calling the shots. But with Donald Trump, you always know exactly who is in charge.
That is true, and it's
Because the answer
scary.
is you. You're in charge. Not lobbyists, not special interests, not
No, it's
warmongers
big
or
baby
China
Trump.
sympathizers or globalization fanatics. With Donald Trump and Mike Pence in the White House, the boss is the American people. President Trump rightly calls his foreign policy America First. America First does not advance the interests of one group of Americans at the expense of another. It has no bias about red or blue, educated or not educated, urban or rural. America First is simply the belief that politicians should focus
Man,
on
he got
the
a little
equality
stiffy when
and
he said
dignity
that.
of every American.
This really is a fucking
And
cult.
that this duty is fulfilled by promoting the safety and wealth of the American people above all else. That's America First. That's the Trump doctrine. And that, my friends, is 4 more years.
By dawn's early light, millions of Americans give thanks for this land, our liberties, and those who defend it. That same pride inspired the words of our national anthem, penned here as the smoke of battle lifted over 2 centuries ago. When those American soldiers bravely fought
Wait, this is
and
the
died
same
for
package
telling
we
the
saw
British on the
earlier,
slate,
isn't it?
They did so not only for our people, which that flag represented, but for our principles, for which the flag stood, our God-given freedoms, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, equality under the law, government by the people. These are the threads that bind us together as Americans, for we are not a nation born of blood, but of belief. And even though that old flag has sometimes been battered and beaten, faded and forgotten, fired upon and set ablaze, there are heroes throughout our history who have picked up those tattered strands, mended them, and raised our flag anew. Just as the soldiers at Fort McHenry fought in defense of the beliefs that bind us today, there are new leaders who have devoted their life to do the same.
I think this is the one from earlier, but I'm really high, so I'm not exactly sure.
Greetings across the amber waves of grain. This is Mike Pence.
Across Indiana highways and homes, his voice warmly welcomed Hoosiers each morning. Mike Pence filled the radio
I don't
waves with
remember
conservative
this,
commentary, guarding our American ideals. But much like the man who inspired him, Mike didn't grow up a Republican.
As President Reagan said, freedom is never more than 1 generation away from extinction.
His grandfather was a hard-working Irish immigrant who drove a bus to provide for his family. His father served our nation bravely in the Korean War and earned a Bronze Star. Mike was the third of 6 children, raised here in Columbus, Indiana, with a cornfield in his backyard.
He was incredibly hated in Indiana.
And the foundation of freedom is faith.
Now, Indiana is one of those states where Trump
his
is really
foundation
safe.
of
He's
faith
up
in
like
Jesus
7 or
Christ
8,
was laid.
9 points.
And from that conviction,
Might have
sprung
even
his
been
love
more.
of
Might have been
people
closer to 16.
and service to others. It was at a church
I don't feel like
service
getting my
where Mike
feet
met
down
the love
and
of his
turning
life,
around and
Karen.
looking.
They married and have 3 children, Michael, Charlotte, and Audrey.
I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order.
Wow.
Mike became the president of a free market
According to
think
my
tank,
Tinder, you
the
need to
host of a statewide
swipe
conservative
left.
radio show, and then a congressman. In Washington, Mike quickly became known as a foremost defender of freedom. He led conservatives in the fight to protect our time-honored values of family, faith, life, liberty, and limited government.
Our
Yep,
nation's
sounds like
strength
a real
begins
piece
at
of
home,
shit.
Because strong families make a
A
strong
closeted
America.
homosexual man.
Mike earned the trust of the people of his state and became the 50th governor of Indiana. He delivered the largest state tax cut in Indiana history, expanded school choice, led the country in manufacturing, and helped more Hoosiers get to work than ever before. But he wasn't through.
Indiana
ABC News
hated
has learned that
him.
Donald Trump will choose Indiana Governor Mike Pence to be his running mate.
I would like to introduce a man who I truly believe will be the next vice president of the United States.
Trump
Governor
needed
Mike
the
Pence.
most
As our vice
evangelical
president,
motherfucker
Mike
he could
Pence has
possibly
held
get.
tightly to those threads of freedom woven through our history.
Stop it, Maynard.
Leading with those principles alongside President Trump, our nation experienced prosperity like never before.
He is solid as a rock. He's been a fantastic vice president.
And now, in these uncertain days, we are equipped to overcome. In times of trouble, some call to retreat from those ideals. But Americans throughout history have lifted them in triumph, hope, and resilience. Mike Pence knows those stars and stripes do not merely represent who we are, but more importantly,
And he didn't
what
even
we
go
can
outside.
be. As the sun rises again on America, we lift our eyes to those lofty truths, to guide our country and every one of us to greater heights. In this land of the free and home of the brave. Vice President Mike Pence.
Please welcome the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, accompanied by the Second Lady.
Oh, we're already
Mrs.
getting Pence.
Karen Pence.
So he's not even the main event. Holy shit.
Good evening, America. It's an honor to speak to you tonight from the hallowed grounds of Fort McHenry, the site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since. It was on this site 206 years ago when our young republic heroically withstood a ferocious naval bombardment from the most powerful empire on earth. They came to crush our revolution, to divide our nation, and to end the American experiment. The heroes who held this fort took their stand for life, liberty, freedom, and the American flag. And those ideals have defined our nation. But they were hardly ever mentioned at last week's Democratic National Convention. Instead, Democrats spent 4 days attacking America. Joe Biden said that we were living through a season of darkness. But as President Trump said, where Joe Biden sees American darkness, we see American greatness. In these challenging times, our country needs a president who believes in America, who believes in the boundless capacity of the American people to meet any challenge, defeat any foe, and defend the freedoms we hold dear. America needs 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House. Before I go further, allow me to say a word to the families and communities in the path of Hurricane Laura. Our prayers are with you tonight, and our administration is working closely with authorities in the states that will be impacted. FEMA has mobilized resources and supplies for those in harm's way. This is a serious storm, and we urge all those in the affected areas to heed
Trump is
state
up
and local
17 in
Stay
Indiana.
Safe, and know that we'll be with you every step of the way to support, rescue,
Why is he in
respond,
Baltimore?
and recover in the days and weeks ahead. That's what Americans do. Four years ago, I answered the call to join this ticket because I knew that Donald Trump had the leadership and the vision
I gotta
to
hit
make
the
America
bong
great.
because I gotta do something to stay awake.
And for the last 4 years, I've watched this president endure unrelenting attacks, but get up every day and fight to keep the promises that he made to the American people. So with gratitude for the confidence President
This really is
Donald
what people
Trump
mean
has
when they're
placed
talking
in me,
about watching
the
paint
support of
dry.
our Republican Party, and the grace of God, I humbly accept your nomination to run and serve as Vice President of the United States.
I really wonder what his play is after they lose. Does he try to continue in politics? Does he go back to doing a radio show? Does he do a YouTube show? Just sit in his house and talk into a microphone the way I do. He'll have the evangelicals eating out of his fucking hand.
Serving the American people in this office has been a journey I never expected. It's a journey that would not have been possible without the support of my family, beginning with my wonderful wife, Karen.
She's kind enough to put a finger in his butthole.
She's a lifelong school teacher, an incredible mother to our 3 children. And she is one outstanding Second Lady of the United States. I'm so proud of you.
Look at these crusty
And we
motherfuckers.
couldn't be more proud of our 3
And
children.
none of them are wearing masks.
Marine Corps Captain Michael J. Pence and his wife Sarah.
I guess
Our
they all
daughter,
probably got
Charlotte
tested.
Pence Bond, an author, and the wife to Lieutenant Henry Bond, who is currently deployed and serving our nation.
They probably
in
didn't
the
know
United
these dumb
States Navy.
motherfuckers.
And our youngest, a recent law school grad, our daughter Audrey, and her fiance, who, like so many other Americans, had to delay their wedding this summer. But we can't wait for Dan to be a
Oh, boo-hoo.
In addition, my wife and kids, the person who shaped my life the most is also with us tonight. My mom, Nancy.
He calls his wife mother, too. Both his moms are in the crowd.
She is the daughter of an Irish immigrant, 87 years young. And Mom follows
Look how proud
politics
she is.
very closely. And the truth be told,
I feel sorry that, the country hates
sometimes
her
I
son.
think I'm actually her second favorite candidate on the Trump-Pence ticket. Thank you, Mom. I love you.
Yeah, she looks
Over
like a
the past 4
batshit
years,
crazy woman that would be into Trump.
I've had the privilege to work closely with our president. I've seen him when the cameras are off. Americans see President Trump in lots of different ways. But there's no doubt how
I'm sure
President
he's
Trump
worse
sees
when the cameras are off.
He
I'm sure
sees
he's
America
he's
for what it
entirely
is.
a piece of shit. He's
A nation
charismatic
that
in
has
front of
done
the
more
camera.
good in this world
To
than
the
any
extent
other.
that he is charismatic.
A nation that deserves far more gratitude than grievance. And if you want a president who falls silent when our heritage is demeaned or insulted, he's not your man. Now, we came by very different routes to this partnership. And some people think we're a
That's
little
the
bit different.
truth.
But I've learned a few things watching him. Watching him deal with all that we've been through over the past 4 years. He does things in his own way, on his own terms. Not much gets past him. And when he has an opinion, he's liable to share it. He's certainly kept things interesting. But more importantly, President Donald Trump has kept his word to the American people.
I remember when we used to talk about political stories for like multiple days at a time.
In a city known for talkers,
sometimes weeks.
President Trump
Shit
is
went
a doer.
on for a while.
And few presidents have brought more independence, energy, or determination to that office. 4 years ago, we inherited a military hollowed out by devastating budget cuts, an economy struggling to break out of the slowest recovery since the Great Depression.
What's he talking
ISIS
about?
controlled a land mass twice the size of Pennsylvania, and we witnessed a steady assault on our most cherished values, freedom of religion and the right to life. That's when President Donald Trump stepped in. And from day one, he kept his word. We rebuilt our military. This president signed the largest increase in our national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan and created the first new branch of our armed forces in 70 years, the United States Space Force. And with that renewed energy, we also returned American astronauts to space on an American rocket for the first time in nearly 10 years. And after years of scandal that robbed our veterans of the care that you earned in the uniform of the United States, President Trump kept his word again. We reformed the VA, and Veterans Choice is now available for every veteran in America. Our armed forces and our veterans fill this land of heroes. And many
Night
times
of
tonight,
Heroes is the theme for the night.
Tonight we have among us 4 recipients of the Medal of Honor.
They're doing a lot better job of hammering home the point because I never could figure out what last night's
6
was.
recipients of the Purple Heart. A Gold Star mother of a gallant Navy SEAL.
Let's get Trump out here so he can make
And
fun of
wounded
him.
warriors from Soldier Strong, a group that serves our injured veterans every day. We are honored by your presence, and we thank you for your service.
Guys, I'm gonna fall asleep. I can't. There's another hour and 15 minutes of this. Oh my God.
With heroes just like these, we defend this nation every day. And under this commander-in-chief, we've taken the fight to radical Islamic terrorists on our terms, on their soil. Last year, American armed forces took the last inch of ISIS territory, crushed their caliphate, and
I can't believe there's
took
people
down their
watching
leader
this
without
shit.
one American casualty.
I do a much more entertaining show when this isn't
President
on.
Trump gave the order to take out the world's most dangerous terrorist. Iran's top
He-
general will
what?
never
He gave
harm
the order to take
another
himself out?
American because Qasem Soleimani is gone.
Oh, you're talking about that motherfucker. God, that was this year. That was earlier this year. Holy fuck, that feels like a lifetime ago.
Decisions to rid the world of two terrorist leaders.
Ugh.
But it's not surprising, because history records that Joe Biden even opposed the operation that took down Osama bin Laden. It's no wonder that
Really?
the
I didn't know
Secretary
that.
of Defense under the Obama-Biden administration once said that Joe Biden has been, and I quote, wrong on nearly every major foreign policy and national security issue over the past 4 decades.
Which is hilarious because he supported
So
the
we've stood up
Republican
to our
position.
And we've stood with our allies.
And he's been wrong.
Like when President Trump kept his word and moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the State of Israel, setting the stage for the first Arab country to recognize Israel in 26 years.
Setting the stage for Jeebus to come back in that
Closer to
motherfucker's
home,
mind.
we appointed more than 200 conservative judges to our federal courts. We supported the right to life and all the God-given liberties enshrined
They don't
in our
call it
Constitution,
activist judges
including
when
the
they're
Second
doing
Amendment
it.
right to keep and bear arms. And when it came to the economy, President Trump kept his word and then some. We passed the largest tax cut and reform in American history. We rolled back more federal red tape than any administration ever had. We unleashed American energy and fought for free and fair trade. And in our first 3 years, businesses large and small created more than 7 million good-paying jobs, including 500,000 manufacturing jobs all across America. Our country became a net exporter of energy for the first time in 70 years.
I thought that
Unemployment rates
happened
for
under
African
Obama.
Americans and Hispanic Americans hit the lowest level ever recorded. And on this 100th anniversary of the woman's right to vote, I'm proud to report that under President Donald Trump, we achieved the lowest unemployment rate for women in 65 years.
Not now, not right now at this moment.
And more Americans working than ever before.
Not
In
right
our
now
first
at
3
this
years, we built the
moment.
greatest economy in the world. We made America great again.
You rode an Obama wave and now you crashed the economy.
And then
the
the
gall of
coronavirus
you
struck
motherfuckers to get on stage and proclaim that.
Before the first case of the coronavirus spread within the United States, the president took unprecedented action.
Well, that's not
Suspended
fucking
all
true.
Travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now that action saved untold American lives. And I can tell you firsthand, it bought us invaluable time to launch the greatest national mobilization since World War II. President Trump marshaled the full resources of our federal government from the outset. He directed us to forge a seamless partnership with governors across America in both political parties. We partnered with private industry to reinvent testing and produce supplies that were distributed to hospitals around the land. Today, we're conducting more than 800,000 tests a day, and we have coordinated the delivery of billions of pieces of personal protective equipment for our amazing doctors, nurses, and healthcare workers.
Yep, didn't listen to a word he said. I was watching the flags wave in the background.
We saw to the manufacture of 100,000 ventilators in 100 days.
They were just
And no one who required a ventilator
gently in
was
the
ever
breeze.
denied a ventilator in the United States. We built hospitals, surged military medical personnel, and enacted an economic rescue package that saved 50 million American jobs. As we speak, we're developing a growing number of treatments known as therapeutics.
Just the depth of field on those flags,
including convalescent plasma that are saving lives all across.
It's a nice shot.
Now, last week, Joe Biden said that no miracle is coming.
He's well lit. He's popping out.
But what Joe doesn't seem to understand is that America is a nation of miracles.
Remember last night he was talking
And I'm proud to report that we're
I
on
thought he was
track
very
to have
scary
the
in
world's
4K.
first safe, effective coronavirus vaccine by the end of this year.
He took my criticism to heart. He softened him up.
After all the sacrifice in this year like no other, all the hardship,
He's still pretty ugly though.
we're finding our way forward again. But tonight, our hearts are with all
But I
the
can't
families
fault
who've
a
lost
man
loved
for having a
ones
watermelon head.
and have family members still struggling with serious illness. In this country, we mourn with those who mourn. We grieve with those who grieve.
He doesn't have any eyebrows.
And this night, I know that millions of Americans will pause and pray for God's comfort for each of you. You know, our country doesn't get through such a time unless its people find strength within. The response of doctors, nurses, first responders, farmers, factory workers, truckers, and everyday Americans who put the health and safety of their neighbors first has been nothing short of heroic.
Night of Heroes. Whoop, whoop.
Veronica Sayez put on her scrubs every day. Day in and day out, went to work in one of New York City's busiest hospitals. She stayed on the job, put in the long hours until it was done, and then got back in her neighborhood and helped neighbors and friends struggling. Her brother William
Friends.
is a New York City firefighter.
You are my friends.
And they're both emblematic of heroes all across this country. They're with us tonight. And I say to them and to all of you, you have earned the admiration of the American people, and we will always be grateful for your service and care.
Yeah, I probably like those people. I just don't like your dumbass. Actually, he's never done anything to me. I got nothing against her. She's probably cool.
Thanks to the courage and compassion of the American people, we're
She
slowing
might not
the
be the
spread.
brightest if she'll vote
We're
for
protecting
like,
the vulnerable.
Trump.
And we're saving lives. And we're opening up America again. Because of the strong foundation
Do
that
I need to
President
get the
Trump
graph
poured in our
out?
first 3 years,
We're leading the
we've already
world
gained
in
back
deaths and cases.
9.3 million jobs in the last 3 months alone. And we're not just opening up America again.
Oh,
we're
this
opening
is
up America's
so,
schools.
So boring. And that's a genocide. You are marching kids
And I'm proud to report that
to a
my wife,
fucking
Karen,
genocide. It's
that
insane.
school teacher I've been married to, will be returning to her classroom next week. And so to all of our heroic teachers,
Well, good
and
luck to
faculty
her.
and staff, thank you for
That's
being there
not
for
a
our
broad
kids.
idea.
We're going to stay with you every step of the way. In the days ahead, as we open up America again, I promise you, We'll continue to put the health of America first. And as we work to bring this
Healthcare,
economy back,
please.
we all have a role to play. And we all have a choice to make. On November 3rd, you need to ask yourself, who do you trust to rebuild this economy? A career
Not
politician
Trump.
who presided over the slowest
Not
economic
you.
recovery since the Great Depression? Or a proven leader?
I don't know how
created the greatest
like you said
economy
that a
in the
couple
world.
times. I don't know where
choice
that
is
stat
clear.
comes from. How
To bring America all the way back, we need 4 more years of President Donald Trump in the White House.
But there's never been another dip as large as the Great Depression.
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing.
Seems like a derpy stat.
But in the midst of this global pandemic, just as our nation had begun to recover, we've seen violence and chaos in the streets of our major cities. President Trump and I will always support the right of Americans to peaceful protest. But rioting and looting is not peaceful protest. Tearing down statues is not free speech.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Those who do
if
so
the
will
poor
be
people
prosecuted
are rioting
to the fullest extent
and
of
the
law.
rich people are against it, you need to take the side of the rioters.
Last week, Joe Biden
They
didn't
are
say
your fellow
one
citizens, and they are
about the
rioting for a
violence and
reason.
chaos engulfing
If you do
cities
not
across
know that
this
reason, go
let
find
me be
out that reason.
The violence must
There
stop.
are plenty of loudmouths
Whether
that
in
will be willing
Minneapolis,
to tell you,
Portland,
but actually
or
listen
Kenosha.
to them.
Too
And
many
you might get
heroes have
pissed
died
off.
defending our freedom to see Americans strike each other down. We will have law and order on the streets of this country for every American of every race and creed and color.
He gave a shout out to Creed.
President Trump and I know that the men and women that put on the uniform of law enforcement are the best of us.
They are
Every
literally
day.
the scum of the earth.
When they walk out that door, they consider our lives more important than their
The
own.
lowest form of human beings.
People like
Nobody
Dave
that
Patrick
considers everybody else's life more important
An
than their
officer
own
in the Department of Homeland
would shoot a
Security's Federal
motherfucker in the
Protective
back
Service,
8 times.
who was shot and killed during the riots in Oakland, California. Dave's heroism is emblematic of the heroes that serve in blue every day. And we're privileged tonight to be joined by his sister, Angela. Angela, we say to you, we grieve with your family. And America will never forget or fail to honor Officer Dave Patrick Underwood. The American people know we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement and standing with our African American neighbors to improve the quality of their lives, education, jobs.
There are
and safety.
15 flags behind them.
And from the first days of this
I think. I might have
administration,
miscounted.
we've
Who
done
knows?
both.
I'm stoned.
And we will keep supporting law enforcement and keep supporting our African American and minority communities across this land for 4 more years.
A-cab, motherfucker.
Now, Joe Biden says that America is systemically racist and that law enforcement in America has, and I quote, an implicit bias against minorities. When asked whether he'd support cutting funding to law enforcement, Joe Biden replied, yes, absolutely.
He did not say that. He said he wanted to fund cops more.
To violence in America's cities. The hard truth is, you won't be safe in Joe Biden's America.
You're not safe in Trump's America.
Trump, we will always stand with those who stand on the thin blue line, and we're not going to defund the police, not now, not ever.
Defund this convention.
My fellow Americans, we're passing through a time of testing, but soon we will come to a time for choosing. Joe Biden has referred to himself as a transition candidate, and many were asking, transition to what? But last week,
turned down for
Democrats
what?
Didn't talk very much about their agenda. And if I were them, I wouldn't either. I mean, Bernie Sanders did tell his followers that Joe Biden would be the most liberal president in modern times. In fact, he said, and I
mean,
quote,
it's a really, really low bar.
That just a few years ago were considered radical are now mainstream in the Democratic Party. At the root of their agenda is the belief that America is driven by envy, not aspiration. That millions of Americans harbor ill will toward our neighbors instead of loving our neighbors as ourselves. The radical left believes that the federal government must be involved in every aspect of our lives to correct those American wrongs.
Oh.
They
I
believe
quit
the
paying
federal
attention to
government
what he
needs to
said
dictate
again.
how Americans
It's hard to
live,
crack
how we
jokes
should
if I'm not
work,
paying attention.
how we should raise our children.
It's hard to pay
In
attention
the
because I'm
process,
falling
deprive
asleep.
our people of freedom, prosperity, and security. Their agenda is based on government control. Our agenda is based on freedom. Where President Trump cut taxes, Joe Biden wants to raise taxes by nearly $4 trillion.
Crying. I'm crying
Where
of
this president
absolute
achieved
boredom
energy
right
independence for the United States, Joe Biden would abolish fossil fuels, end fracking, and impose a regime of climate change regulations that would drastically increase the cost of living for working families. Where we fought for free and fair trade, and this president stood up to China and ended the era of economic surrender, Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China. He wants to repeal all the tariffs that are leveling the playing field for American workers. And he actually criticized President Trump for suspending all travel to China at the outset of this pandemic.
I don't even remember that
Joe
happening.
Biden is for open borders.
But that feels
sanctuary
like a
cities,
lifetime ago.
free lawyers and health care for illegal immigrants. And President Trump, he secured our border and built nearly 300 miles of that border wall.
That's not true at all.
Joe Biden wants to end school choice.
He's replaced
President Trump believes
a bunch
that
of
every
wall.
parent should have the right to choose where their children go to school, regardless of their income or area code.
That is code for
President
siphon
Trump-
public money into private
President Trump has stood without apology
firms.
for the sanctity of human life every day of this administration. Joe Biden,
That's code for I
he
want to
supports
seem
taxpayer
moral without
funding
having
of
to
abortion,
do fucking anything.
right up to the moment of
Just
birth.
mention the unborn.
When you consider their agenda, it's clear. Joe Biden would be nothing more than a Trojan horse for the radical left. The choice in this election has never been clearer, and the stakes have never been higher. Last week, Joe Biden said democracy's on the ballot. And the truth is, our economic recovery is on the ballot. Law and order are on the ballot. But so are things far more fundamental and foundational to our country. In this election, it's Not so much whether America will be more conservative or more liberal, more Republican or more Democrat. The choice
It's
in
going
this
to be
election
more violent before it's
is
more
whether
peaceful.
America remains America. It's whether we will leave to our children and our grandchildren a country grounded in our highest ideals of freedom,
We're in for a
markets,
wild
the unalienable right to
ride
life
for the
and
next
liberty,
couple months.
or whether we will leave them a country that's fundamentally transformed into something else. We stand at a crossroads, America. President Trump has set our nation on a path of freedom and opportunity. Joe Biden would set America on a path of socialism and decline.
Woo-hoo!
But we're not going to let it happen.
I don't think you guys are winning.
President Donald Trump believes in
If
America.
you're a Trump supporter out there, I would brace yourself for a
The boundless
loss.
potential of every American to live out their dreams in freedom. And every day, President Trump has been fighting to protect the promise of America. Every day, our president has been fighting to expand the reach of the American dream. And every day, President Donald Trump has been fighting for you. And now it's our turn to fight for him. On this night in the company of heroes, I'm
Night of Heroes.
deeply grateful for the privilege of serving as Vice President of this great nation and to have the opportunity to serve again. I pray to be worthy of it, and I will give that duty all that's in me. In the year 2020, the American people have had more than our share of challenges. But thankfully, we have a president with the toughness, energy, and resolve to see us through. Now, those traits actually run in our national character.
I thought he was getting close to being
As the
finished.
invading force learned on approach to this fort
He
in
started a
September of
whole nother
1814,
section of his speech.
against fierce and sustained bombardment, our young country was defended by heroes, not so different from those who are with us tonight. The enemy was counting on them to
Night
quit,
of Heroes.
but they never did. Fort McHenry held, and when morning came, our flag was still here.
Oh, say can you see? So that's why he's there. I was wondering
My
why he
fellow
was in
Americans,
Baltimore.
We're going through a time of testing. But if you look through the fog of these challenging times, you will see our flag is still there today.
I can't see through the fog, and like the tears in my eyes. Because I'm so fucking literally
That
bored
star-spangled
to
banner
tears.
still waves over the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Am I supposed to put my hand on my goddamn heart right now?
From these hallowed grounds, American
Is that what
patriots
the
and generations
brainwashed
gone by did
motherfuckers
their
do?
part to defend
The
freedom.
bootlickers out there.
Now it's our turn. So let's run the race marked out for us. Let's fix our eyes on Old Glory and all she represents. Let's fix our eyes on this land of heroes and let their courage inspire. And let's fix our eyes on the author and perfecter of our faith and our freedom. And never forget that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. That means freedom always wins.
Yeah, because the bad guys
My
never
fellow
think they have
Americans,
God
thank you
on
for
their
the honor of
side.
addressing you
That's
tonight.
never happened
And the
any
opportunity
time
to run
throughout
and serve
history.
again as your vice
Ever.
I leave here today inspired.
Right-wingers are morons.
And I leave here today more convinced than ever that we will do in our time as Americans have done throughout our long and storied past. We will defend our freedom and our way of life.
Mike Pence would really hate it if he saw you wearing a right-wingers are morons t-shirt that you can buy at the link right below
and with
my
President
picture.
Donald Trump in the
Right
White
down
House
there.
for 4
The
more
freaking shop.
years,
That's a real advertisement.
and with God's help, we will make America
That's a real
great
shirt.
again.
You can get one. I got
Again.
a flag. It's fucking awesome.
Thank you. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Finally. Jesus Christ, that was like fucking 30 minutes. Wait, what, Trump? He's there too? Of course he's got to make it about himself. Melania looking colorful tonight. Instead of her communist olive dress she had on. She gonna talk? Finally we got some action going on.
Here to perform our national anthem, please welcome country music superstar Trace Atkins.
Oh shit! I've actually seen Trace Atkins in concert. He wasn't bad, but like he beat his wife or something like that. Supposedly he's not a very savory individual.
Oh, say can you
Hell of a voice though.
by the dawn's early light,
That honky tonk, but
twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars.
Don't think I didn't sing along with some honky tonk, badonkadonk. I did.
Or the ramparts.
What? That's not even the fucking American flag. What the fuck?
Gallantly streaming.
What fucking flag was that?
Rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in.
What's going on?
Gave proof through the night.
That's like a historical side, so that must have some meaning. Like, I must be flipping out over nothing.
Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave?
But it's not like the 13 colonies flag. But that doesn't mean that it was the flag before that flag or whatever.
And the home of the brave.
I mean, they could have had a worse performer doing the national anthem. He did a really good job. Motherfucker's got talent. Unsavory individual, and that's the reason why he's at the RNC. Then they play, is that Brooks and Dunn? This shit's gonna get me a copyright claim. Fuck you, Trump. I need to talk as much as I can over top of it so that Facebook doesn't yank the video down. Only in America. I worked for a country music station like around the time that song came out. I heard it constantly. Fuck, especially when it was the 4th of July. Some shit like that. Oh, fuck. That fucking song. Is this the end of the convention? Are they wrapping up early tonight? That all they had? Because, good Lord, that might be all I have in me. I can't believe there's fucking people still watching this. Why? Are you guys masochists? If that's not the end of the RNC's coverage, it should be. I'm signing off for the night. We're going to be back tomorrow for the final night. Trump and his big, I'm sure he's going to have a rally. I'm sure there's going to be people there like this. Holy shit. That's a crowd of people. No masks. And Trump's going out there in them? What? Holy shit. Oh, this is amazing. But all right, we'll be back tomorrow night. Sometime between 8:30, 9 o'clock. As always, go ahead, light one up. Tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm Justin Freakin. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Troll Patrol. Live.